Okay, so Wicked for Good is finally here, and as this marks the conclusion to the Broadway adaptation and to Glinda and Elphaba's story, and there was so much to talk about, especially the whole thing. And so we are now going into spoiler territory. It is not only I'm going to be breaking down my spoiler thoughts, but also breaking down the ending and how it compares to the Broadway play. Even though I have no experience with it, but it's especially with the ending itself, how it's a great closure to the story, and just with everything else in general. So if you have not seen the movie, this will be your spoiler warning. So you get out of here and come back to this video after you've seen the movie. But if you're still here, enjoy it. And so if you're new to that, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so it's on any future videos. But now let's get right into it. And now, I have to say, I was impressed for how this picked up the momentum after part 1. It's because at the end of the first movie, when Glinda and Elphaba sung Defying Gravity, with Elphaba that exposed the wizard for being a fraud and involving animal cruelty, and with Elphaba that has truly become the Wicked Witch of the West. And that's how Wicked for Good opened up, and with the villagers and everyone in Oz reacted to now the Wicked Witch of the West, and now she'll do no matter what it takes to take down the wizard. And this is the true characteristics that describe the character of Elphaba. She'll do no matter what it takes, especially as she is born with these powers, especially given at birth, and to even face off against the wizard. So it's like a face off between the two of them. And even for where we left off our characters, where they're at in part 2 with Glinda, she is now by the wizard's side and now working for him, and even with Madame Morble, who is showing Glinda that she'll do like great things. And even for what is with Madame Morble and wizards and their motive is, and even for what they are truly hiding, I think it's something like very revealing. That is something like later on, even with people that now see Elphaba as a truly wicked and evil person, and now it's like even for what Elphaba wants to do is to set the animals free, and for what the wizard planned to do with them. And even though as it was explained in part 1 and now being explored here in Wicked for Good, and even for what we learned with Glinda, and now that she is engaged to a Prince Fiyero and they're to be wed, for how like Fiyero is also planning to find Elphaba, and now that she is the Wicked Witch, just for how like the hunt is now continuing to find her. And even though she's like hiding out everywhere because of how wicked she is, and even find all the creatures, and all the critters, and all the animals, and even though we get introduced to the characters from the Wizard of Oz, including for the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and one of the characters which I'll get to at the end, how we see for how everything comes together and compared to the Broadway stage play, I think it plays out totally different. But even though I have no experience with the play, but to see it like play out as part of covering the second half of the stage play, it is a truly usual experience. And you know, I thought it is slower in some parts, but it definitely picks up the pace, and it really continues like straight away. And then as we truly learn later on with the reveals and betrayals that have been made, and this is coming from after Glinda and Fiyero are married, but then with Elphaba that is with the wizard, and she's in a room full of the caged animals that the wizard put them there. But then with Elphaba, she does the most obvious thing is to set them free, and that's what she definitely wanted. And even for when Glinda and Elphaba first went to see the wizard, with Glinda like I told her that she can have everything that she wants, but even just for how like people are reacting to like her powers, and now that she is truly wicked. And I think there's more of the story explained about her. It is truly more meaningful and truly adds to the depth of what her character means. And now that Elphaba has now let the animals free, and now causing a stampede between Glinda and Fiyero's wedding, and even for with the betrayals that have been made is truly heartbreaking. And that is when Fiyero goes stop between the wizard and Elphaba, and then with Glinda that she truly witnesses is that Fiyero that now goes with Elphaba, and like the two fall in love. Oh my gosh, it is truly heartbreaking just with the way that Glinda sees this like right in front of her, and it is truly a crazy way to kind of reveal for what has truly happened. And I think with reveals that were made from the stage play, I think for how it is revealed here on film, it is beautiful, but also a tragedy and like betrayal in a way that it is truly sees this. And even with the Wizard of Oz, for how it plays a big role into the second part, is that with the tornado and how it became that, and that it was all controlled by Madame Morble that like picked up Dorothy's house and it landed in Oz. But especially as we saw in the Wizard of Oz movie, and that I think like we had no idea of what person that it landed on when it had a crash landing. But then we truly discover that it was Nessa that the house dropped on. That is Elphaba's sister, and like that's how we get a true face-off between Glinda and Elphaba. I think, it is all explained in the Wizard of Oz movie, and with how the plot of the Wizard of Oz plays into this movie, and it truly adds more context for what we're about to be in store for as reveals are made, especially with the Wizard and Morble's motive now towards Elphaba. And even we see Dorothy, Toto, Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion go to visit the Wizard in the Emerald City, and with the Wizard that tells them to bring them the broom of the Wicked Witch. And with Glinda and Elphaba that they reunite, and then with the guards sort of like take them away, and with Fiyero that goes in to stop the scene, and he's being taken along with Elphaba as well. And then how we see all this being unveiled, and now with Glinda and Elphaba coming face to face, is of course for the last time when Glinda spots Elphaba imprisoning Dorothy, and now after having taken her shoes, because, and even though these two sing change for the better, and as they like meet each other for the last time, and even with Glinda that tells Elphaba of everything that she is doing and that they love each other so much, and then as we see them depart from each other, we see Elphaba being killed by Dorothy when she splashes water on her and she is melting, with Glinda like seeing this from her point of view, like through the door, and having like so much emotions within her. And even though I got emotions seeing this as well, and then as we see the rest of the story play out, and for what is revealed about the Wizard by Glinda is that he is the birth father of Elphaba, and it explains why she was born with these powers, and it totally makes sense because of this. As we see Glinda and Morble seeing the Wizard leaving Oz, and just like with Dorothy, we don't actually get the reveal of her face, because as John M. Chu said, this is telling the perspective of Glinda and Elphaba's story and putting the conclusion and closure onto them, and that's what this whole thing was all about. And now she is Oz's new leader, and then we go back to the beginning of part one, right where it all started, and how everything is now circled back to this moment when we see Glinda visiting all of the villagers and all the munchkins, and finishing telling the story, and then reestablishes all the animal rights and putting them back where they belong at the school. And then we see this one last scene with Fiyero that goes to rescue Elphaba, and even though she somehow faked her death, and after she was killed by Dorothy, and even to never to be seen in Oz ever again. And then we see Fiyero as the Scarecrow, and then two run off together. And we see Fiyero and Elphaba leaving in the desert. And with this, a final shot of Glinda and Elphaba is actually a recreation and homage to the original Wicked of Broadway poster, and I think it is a brilliant way to end the film as well. And I truly enjoyed it from my own experience, and your opinions are your own, but even though people have mixed feelings about it, and even if it is worse in part two or in like act two entirely, and I think it was a truly beautiful way to end this Broadway adaptation movie as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed it too. But that's gonna do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments down below, and if you've seen Wicked for Good, what you thought of the ending, and if it got you emotional. But just let me know all in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe and turn on notifications about video videos. Also follow all my social medias all down below. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.